In sports, if you want to be the best, there are no off days.
Welcome into the No Off Days podcast. Chris Cato to my left. BK is in the booth. We got Mariah on the jib. And then I am Scott Smith. Welcome on in. What do you do when you're bored, Chris? Like, what are the things, if you just need to fill time because there's nothing going on, what do you do?
I usually look at the incoming rookie class for Alabama football and start fantasizing about how great these guys are going to be. And then I also create my weird Pearl Jam playlist. That's what I do in my spare time.
Well, I might implement one of those two things. Yeah, this is the slowest week on the sports calendar. So you have All-Star Week, and everybody loves the Home Run Derby and the All-Star Game itself. But then we just get into just this lull where there's not much cooking, and that's this week. So we need to find a way to spice this week's show up.
Are we going to cook?
I think
How about a cooking show?
I think that's been tried and done. I mean, we've done enough. We have done some cooking.
We've done some eating.
We've done some eating. So yeah, well, maybe that's an idea. We bring in like a famous chef, and then they could just cook for us on days like this. No, we're going to spice things up a little bit. We got a little local flavor this week, and for that, let's bring in Brian King.
He's the spice.
BK, if you were any spice, what would you be?
I'd be paprika.
If you can't pronounce your spice,
paprika.
then what about you?
I think he meant cumin.
What?
I would go.
It's cumin.
Oh, it's a cumin.
Yes.
Okay. I would probably go oregano.
You think so?
Yeah, it's solid.
You're not oregano.
Oregano's solid.
Yeah,
It makes
you're
everything.
not
Oregano makes everything better.
No, you're salt.
No,
You're straight
I am
salty.
the salt of the earth. Yeah, thank you
Okay.
very much.
Okay.
What are you?
I don't know. I mean, I like paprika too, but I like smoked paprika, but that's already been taken. Let's go with the, let's see. What's a good one? Coriander.
Oh,
I think
yes.
I'm a good coriander.
That's big on Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
You get a lot of
okay.
coriander in the turkey,
That's
the mashed
exactly
potatoes.
right. Exactly. All right. How are we going to spice this week's show up here, BK?
What do you say we bring in some of the Goon Squad guys? Pat and Aaron from the WDAE.
Yeah, so we have Pat Donovan, Aaron Jacobsen coming in. These are morning radio guys, so I think they'll be able to show us what we've been doing wrong for the last 2 years in this podcast.
And they can help us during the slow time of the sports calendar fill some time and talk about things.
Yeah, well, we don't just fill time here. We're going to dive. We're going to go into some depth because I think now is as good a time as any, right, to take a little inventory on our Rays and look at what they've done and maybe what the second half looks like, get their perspective on that, and then football season's right around the corner. I know we've been counting down the days here, but training camp's going to open, what to expect from the Bucs, and kind of some of the discussion I feel like I'm reading out of NFC South blogs and what they think of this division. So we'll get into that.
Okay. Sounds good.
Anything else, BK?
We got a golf tournament coming up, don't we?
Indeed.
One of our majors.
The fourth and final major of the year. That would be the Open.
Do not call it the British Open.
Don't see now. I prefer the British Open.
I do too,
but it's in Scotland this year.
It's the
so
Open.
you can't
Well, it's
call it.
always it's the British Isles, right? So, but it's the British Open because I just.
That's what you grew up with, and that's what you like.
No, I feel like it's a little presumptuous to think that, because you're the oldest, that you get to just call yourself the Open.
But they did invent a game, so I mean,
they did, but
They
here in the
say
United
they did.
States, we have an Open, and it's our United States Open.
But we have a World Series. We invented baseball, so are we World Series champions? Or
That's the name. The
Well,
name is the World Series.
but we're not world champions.
Well, of course
we
you're
don't-
world champions.
We don't play Japan. We don't play.
I would
Korean
call them
teams.
World Series champions. Yeah.
World Series
Maybe you're
champions.
right on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say, how about if the U.S. wins the Ryder Cup, they have to go back to calling it the British Open. I think that's fair, right?
Yeah,
it.
no, I like that.
Yeah.
That's a good.
I like that too.
Okay. All right. So we have the Open this week. So
We'll do a draft. What do you say?
I love it. I missed it. I mean, I feel like did we miss the last one? Didn't
Yeah.
We missed the what?
Was that
PGA?
the PGA?
Yeah.
And I think it would have been BK's turn to win because
it wouldn't have.
you won one, I won one. It would
No.
be BK would be up.
Okay.
No
So we're gonna
Alabama
have to
golfer won.
have to think of what we're gonna put on the line because last time I don't think it was good enough.
Yeah.
We did snacks out of the.
Yes, you
Out of the break
got
room.
you got jobbed on the prize
Yeah,
for
so
sure.
we got to figure out something there. We have a couple breaks to figure that one out. All right, Sounds good. We'll catch up with you in just a little bit, BK. Thank you so much. If you're listening and you want to watch, go to fox13news.com/NODPOD. If you're watching and you want to listen or subscribe, you can take out your phone. You can zap that QR code at the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, and there it'll take you to our show page. There you can find all of our shows. We ask you to give us a 5-star rating if you are subscribed on the podcast, and like, share, and all the things that they prompt you to do. All right, so last week we kind of kicked off our preview of the NFL season. We're going division by division, leading you right up to the season. And so last week it was the AFC West. This week it's the NFC West. The floor is yours. We'll take it from the top down, I assume. You want to go that way?
Sure, let's go.
Okay. Who's winning the NFC West?
We had a lot of agreement last week on our AFC West breakdown.
I have a good feeling this week, too.
You think we will? Okay.
I think so.
This will shock you. I'm going to say the San Francisco 49ers finish first again. Third year in a row this would happen and win the NFC West. I don't know if it will be as easy as it was last season in the division. Remember, the division was kind of down a bit last year. You had, Cardinals weren't good at all, and then the Seahawks were iffy, and then the Rams came on strong at the end. But I think it may be a little tougher this year schedule-wise for the 49ers. But it's the 49ers. I mean, you look at the offense, you've got the weapons that they have in Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle. I could go on and on. I don't think they got much better in the offseason. I would say that. I saw a lot of the draft graders out there giving them a C+ for the draft plus the free agency season, which they didn't really do a lot to make their offensive line better, which I think they needed a little help on offensive line. But I still see this team clearing, Vegas has set their total at 11.5. I'm going to say for the third year in a row, they go over that and win 12 games.
Okay. I'm right there with you. I mean, you kind of hit on all the points. They have, on offense, they got 11 returning starters. This year, number 3 for Brock Purdy. Last year, I didn't realize this. Last year, he set the franchise record for passing yards. To do that for the San Francisco 49ers is saying something.
Have they had some guys there before?
They've had a couple guys that maybe you've heard of. Elvis Gerbach.
Yes.
No. Yeah. I mean, so I think year number 3 for Brock. Under the helmet, he's become more than the game manager type. I think he's a legit playmaker, a guy that's really steady, really efficient at quarterback. He can sling the ball, and he's got plenty of weapons to get the ball too. I'm intrigued by one of their draft picks in Florida receiver Ricky Pearsall.
Yeah,
you add him, with obviously he's going to have to fight for a little bit of playing time, but I think he could be a nice little weapon in that offense. They held on to Deebo Samuel despite some rumors that they might be trading that guy in the offseason. But yeah, I think that they're stacked on offense. Defensively, I mean, they still have enormous playmakers at all levels on their defense.
Let's see, they lost Eric Armstead, right, and Javon Kinlaw.
Yeah, but they got what? Still have Hargrave in the middle, a Pro Bowl D tackle. They have Nick Bosa. Sorry, the better of the Bosas,
right.
Nick.
The healthier of the Bosas.
They got Fred Warner. I mean, I think, Leonard Floyd is coming in off the edge. And the only thing slight change defensively is they have a new defensive coordinator, but it's a promotion from within, so it's Nick Sorensen, so Wilkes is out. But yeah, I mean, the 49ers, they're going to win the division. I got them winning 13 games this year, so 13-4 49ers.
Okay.
My second place team in the NFC West this year is going to be the LA Rams. Last year they were a little bit of a surprise because of a lot of younger players. They finished 10-7, which I think was a really good season for them. And Matt Stafford played I thought he had an exceptional season. Making the Pro Bowl. He comes into now year number 16. You got a healthy Cooper Kupp back. He's going to be healthy for the full season. I think what you discovered in some of your offensive weapons was really nice too. Puka Nacua, even Kyron Williams, their running back, had a nice little breakout season. They drafted Blake Corum out of Michigan, so that should be an interesting 1-2 punch there in the backfield. But look, defensively, you lose Aaron Donald. And I just can't see a net gain defensively.
Right.
So that may be a bit of a question. So I have them, and they lose their defensive coordinator in Raheem Morris. That's replaceable, but I like a lot of what they have. They got a lot of young players. Can Matt Stafford at his age keep producing? I mean, he hasn't given you a reason to expect any type of setback. But I have them dropping just a game worse than last year. So I have the Rams finishing second, but I have them at 9-8.
Okay, I think they're going to be slightly better than last year. I know the defense is a big question mark. Look, you can't replace Aaron Donald. I do like how they drafted. I like them drafting the tandem from Florida State and Jared Verse and Brandon Fisk.
Braden Fisk,
But they don't, that's not going to replace Aaron Donald, but I think it still helps you. You should be able to generate some pass rush with that, right?
Yeah.
It's a new – they also got Tre'Davious White in the secondary. He's a stud. But as you said, new DC. So I think the offense is going to have to carry them long enough for the defense to kind of figure things out. And I think, as you pointed out, they have the offense to do that. I mean, this is an offense. They've got all the skill players from a top 10 scoring offense back. So I think, and looking at their schedule, I think a couple games, if it breaks right for them, they open the season on the road at the Lions, the return of Stafford, of course. How exciting is that? I see them winning. They're projected at 8.5 in Vegas. I see them winning 11 games here.
Okay.
I'm pretty high on them.
We saw that it'll be a revenge match because the Lions and the Rams met in the playoffs last year.
Right.
And the edge went to the Lions in that one. But you got 11 wins, 11-6?
I got 11-6, yeah.
Okay. All right. So it looks like we're in step, and it seems like we'll probably be in step the rest of the way. In third place, I got the Seattle Seahawks. Last year, a 9-8 season, a bit of a step back for Geno Smith at quarterback after his 22 season, in which he earned a nice little pay bump. They have a new head coach, Pete Carroll stepping down, and in steps Mike McDonald, defensive coordinator from the Ravens. It's going to be a new identity. I just think that's probably going to be the biggest key in getting everybody up to speed with a first-year head coach. I mean, it's not just his first year with the Seahawks; it's his first year as a head coach. Geno could get a nice bounce back this season potentially, but. They have a decent receiver room in Metcalf and Smith.
They got a great receiver room.
Tyler Lockett.
That's three studs there.
Yeah, and their defense actually was better last year than I thought they'd be.
Mm-hmm.
And they can get after the quarterback. I think they'll be decent. I have them sliding down a little bit this year. I got them at 7-10.
Okay, you got 7-10. Boy, you must really have the Cardinals very low. I got Seahawks in third place too. I'll do this kind of quickly. I think they're going to have let's see, last year they were 9-8. I think they're going to be 9-8 again. I think McDonald, obviously, his blueprint is the defense, and so I think that the defense is going to be better this year. And what I'm really intrigued to see is if the offensive coordinator he hired, Ryan Grubb, who comes over from the Washington Huskies after spending a minute in Tuscaloosa, he followed Kalen DeBoer to Tuscaloosa, but really he always wanted to take this job in Seattle. That's his home there. I'm intrigued to see what he does with Geno Smith, to see if he can unlock the Geno Smith of 2022 with that core of great receivers he has there. And I think that's going to define whether or not this is a good first year for Mike McDonald. But I've got him at 9-8 in McDonald's first season.
Okay. Real quickly, we can't do this with every team, but I just want to kind of go through their schedule because, Broncos week 1. That could be a win. Mm-hmm. Patriots, week 2. So maybe you start out 2-0, but that's Patriots on the road. Miami lost. Detroit probably lost. It's on the road. The New York Giants, that could be a win. Niners at Atlanta. Atlanta's could be a feisty team this year. Buffalo, the Rams, Niners again. I just think. They have the Jets. Yeah. The Jets are good. They're going to be a good team this year. The Packers are going to be a good team this year. The Bears are going to be better. It's just, I think they'll be a feisty team, but I think they have just a tough schedule. All right, so rounding things out, why don't you take us through those Arizona Birds?
Okay, let's get to the Birds. Only 4 wins last year in Jonathan Gannon's first season, but 3 of those wins, Scott, were against playoff teams.
Okay.
So when they won, they beat someone at least.
Yeah.
Can't say that for a lot of teams, and they didn't have Kyler Murray for half the season.
Yeah.
And when he came back, obviously there was some rust. Had to get the offense clicking, but I like how they kind of bought in down the stretch. I like how these Birds wanted to hang around and fight. I think they got the best receiver in the draft, right? Marvin Harrison Jr. should be an immediate impact player, difference maker. Got some weapons. Got Trey McBride at tight end. You got Michael Wilson, James Conner, kind of a two-headed running back room there with James Conner and their draft pick. Trey Benson, who many said was the best running back in the draft there. So deep draft class, too. They had 8 picks out of the first 104 players picked. Cardinals got 8 of them. Now, do all those translate immediately into wins? No, but you got some young talent to work with there. Defense needs a lot of work, but they added some guys in free agency. 7th easiest schedule in the league this year, by the way. Vegas has them at 6.5. I'm going to be bullish and say they win 7.
Oh, how about that? Okay, so I mean, it sounds like the NFC West, and I would agree. I think that they are one of the more talented divisions. I just think how their schedule sets up, their pairings from AFC divisions. I think it's just going to be. It's going to be some tough sledding.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going up against AFC East teams, and you got the Dolphins, you got the Buffalo Bills. Those 2 teams aren't going anywhere. The Jets are going to be a lot better. The Patriots, I'm not sure exactly what to expect from the Patriots this year. That may be the easy win for that division, but it's just, yeah. I got the Cardinals coming in at 6-11, so they're improved. I mean, I think having a healthy Kyler Murray for the season is going to give you that alone. I do love their draft. I think Marvin Harrison Jr., big-time playmaker. He's going to be a star right out of the gates. I like Trey Benson as well at FSU, and they do add some free agents, including a former Buccaneer and Sean Murphy-Bunting.
That's right.
An Arizona Cardinal. Buda Baker at safety on the defensive side, but other than him, I mean, the defense is really left wanting. So that's tough. I mean, you're going up against the Niners twice, the Rams twice. You know, how many
they'll
of those,
sneak up and surprise someone, though, like they did the Eagles last year.
Maybe they could do a few times. I have them doing it 6 times, in fact. But yeah, but I think we're in step, give or take a few losses here or there. That it's looking like the Niners, followed by the Rams, Seahawks, and the Arizona Cardinals, which is exactly how it shook out last year.
Season.
So that's a look at your NFC West. Our preview next week. What do we got on the docket? I think it's the AFC East.
Well, we go back to AFC.
We're going AFC.
Right.
We kind of do this rotating thing. So, all right, coming up on the other side, we are happy to welcome in our guests. Is this the first time we've ever had 2 guests at the same time?
A double.
This
Let's see.
Table will expand to 4 people when we return. Pat and Aaron from WDAE are our guests.
All right.
When the Nod Pod continues. Welcome on back to the No Off Days podcast. We are joined. This is a Pat and Aaron sandwich right here. Pat and Aaron from WDAE. You can catch them weekdays, 6 to 9 a.m. and well past their bedtime now, joining us on our little podcast. You're going to have to show us how to do the radio thing because, I mean, we've been doing this for about a year and a half, but we're still very much rookies.
Do we talk into the microphone like this? Is this right?
I don't know if this is even plugged in, to be perfectly honest with you. So.
See, now we're just meeting Chris a little bit, but we've had you in studio. We know you know what you're doing.
Barely. I know how to fake it. That's what I do.
You filled in for this guy before.
Did I? There's no filling in. There's no filling in.
I've been faking it for 10 years. I just have no idea what I'm doing.
They brought you back from vacation early, right? When he was filling in, they were like, please, get back here.
No, Pat texted me. He's like, you can stay away as long as you want. You're good to go.
All right, let's get into this. We're hitting the All-Star break. It's time to kind of assess where the Rays are at. And obviously, it's far from what they looked like last year at this time going into the All-Star break. But they've shown some fight as of late. You know, where do you kind of assess with it? I guess let's start here. What are the best takeaways from the first half? I know there's plenty to kind of pick on and nitpick things that are not what they looked like last year. But if you're encouraged by anything from what you've seen throughout the first half of the season, what is it?
It's the young pitching, right? It's the fact that Taj Bradley has looked the way he has many times out, Ryan Pepio, and then to get Boz back and see him do what he's done since coming back has been really encouraging. So I think overall this may not be the year, but when you look at the young pitching and some of the pitching we're still going to get back, you never know. They could catch fire.
We're so spoiled now.
We are.
We are so spoiled. Yeah. We would have done anything for a 500 record at the All-Star break, hovering around 500 all season long. That's what this team has been, you know, when they started getting good. They were getting, you know, around 500, and then they were really good. Yeah. And now fans are complaining. They're calling our show all the time. Pat is like one of the most optimistic guys I know.
Well, and it seems like he's more negative, and you're a little bit more positive. You're switching roles for this
scaring me. It's scaring me. It is.
This year I have been much more pessimistic, unfortunately, about this team. I just thought with the pitching that was missing, with McClanahan going down and some of these things that they just weren't going to have enough. And I've said to him since before the season began, I feel like on too many nights, either the pitching or the hitting is not going to show up. And unfortunately, on too many nights, that's been the case.
Well, I have a theory that, usually the pattern is they hit well until the calendar turns to October. And so they just thought earlier in the year that it was October already. So now they're going to start smoking it. They're about to get it cranked up here.
I hope so. We recently saw them go up against the Rangers, who ousted them from the playoffs last year and didn't go well. So we're hoping that the play before that series, where they had won 5 series in a row, that's what you want to carry on over past the All-Star break. But yes, I love that optimism. Let's hope the bats come alive. The only problem is it's pretty much the same lineup as last year.
Right.
But when it comes to the pitching, help could be on the way. We're looking at the second half where you could get a Jeffrey Springs back. Is he going to return to the form that we saw prior to Tommy John? Not sure. Drew Rasmussen could be back. So help could be on the way, some of these pieces. And you mentioned Taj Bradley and Ryan Pepio, young pitchers that are starting to come into their own a little bit. Would it surprise you if some of these guys came back and were immediate contributors? That's kind of what they need, right? That's the weak spot.
I wouldn't be surprised. Jeffrey Springs, we got to remember, he didn't pitch a lot before he got hurt.
But he was unhittable when he was pitching.
Yes, and now you go through a major surgery, and we'll see. It's hard to put stock, and I know, we mentioned Shane Baz. That's a young guy who has been through a lot of surgery. So it's really hard for me to go, okay, well, this guy, if he produces at the end of the season, they could do this. Because with the Rays, especially with the starting pitchers, they get hurt quite often. It's been a pattern with them. So it's kind of like a wait and see. We like what the young guys are doing. If they can roll, if they can stay healthy, and the bats are going to have to come together. And you notice, guys, I'm mentioning a lot of things. Like a lot of things have to all
be a perfect storm, right?
Yeah.
There's so many ifs, and I actually, when it comes to the young pitching, I expect them to be back at some point, and I expect them to be pretty good, like we just saw with Shane Baz. But at the end of the day, I just think it's going to be too little, too late this season. And I've said to him, he thinks I'm cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, but I've said to him, I think it's much more likely the Rays are World Series contenders in 2025 than actually playoff contenders in 2024.
That's interesting. Let's slip you into the GM role.
God
forbid.
Oh boy.
Eric Neander's job is very safe. Right. Those two idiots around.
Oh man.
The leading contenders for Neander's backup role. All right. So trade deadline's approaching. It sounds like you guys are sellers, right? Is that where you're at?
No. I'm not there. No.
Because you're still playing for a wild card.
Yeah.
Right?
And we've debated this. We've gone back and forth on this because I think, you can sell some pieces. Like a Zach Eflin, for instance. You can trade Eflin, and I don't think you're a seller. I don't think that makes you a seller. I think you can still be competing now.
Are you buying anything? Because if you're not buying anything, and you're
if you're getting prospects for Eflin, which is probably the idea,
you've already
unload
traded
that salary.
You've already traded.
But if you're making a run this year, you got to buy some bats, right?
Yeah.
You would think so.
I think they're going to be kind of like a little in the middle, a little hesitant, a little cautious. They're not going to buy anything that's going to help them right now immediately. But I think, as we saw a little while ago, they traded Aaron Savali. Well, they feel comfortable. That's not because they're giving up and they're selling. It's because they feel comfortable with the young guys that we mentioned that are coming up.
The reason why you move on from an Aaron Savali, from Phil Maton, is because at the end of the day, it's about next year more than it's about this year.
Well, they weren't getting it done this year. Savali, third time through the lineup, he's getting rocked every time. It just wasn't there.
Your biggest piece, though, could potentially, in a Randy Arozarena, is that a guy that you would look into a trade offer?
If the price is right.
If the price is right, always, I guess, with just about any guy. But for me, no. And the reason why, when I say I think they're more likely to be World Series contenders next year, when it comes down to it, the Rays, whether it be playoff contenders, World Series contenders, whatever it is, the way they do business, as we all kind of know, everything kind of has to work out perfectly for them to be at their best. And part of that, everything working out perfectly for me, is for Randy Arozarena to be peak Randy Arozarena. Right. He needs to be that guy, and in this lineup, for them, in my opinion, to be World Series contenders, unless they were to get a massive haul for him. And at this point, I just kind of don't see that.
Yeah, and to Aaron's point, that's when we were spoiled last year with the way they started things out, everything was working, right? The pitching staff, everybody was hitting the ball. And when everything's, peaking, then there's plenty of optimism. But, the reality is that they have a low salary cap. They're a low salary team for a reason, and a lot. That's not to say that these guys don't have a lot of potential, but to have all these guys consistently produce for a 162 game season, I think that's hard to ask, right?
They're not that as exciting as they were. Remember, they were so exciting.
Well, the base running. It's not just pitching, offense. Base running's falling off. Defense has been really bad considering the Rays' standard for defense. And
Yep.
yeah, they're not as much fun to watch. So, but there are some guys, like I think Jose Siri has kind of become the personality of the team in the last few weeks. Like, you know, he's a fun guy to watch. If Randy gets it cooking again, I think Palacios is kind of they have some pieces there. It's just there's not the same excitement around the team that we had last summer at this time. But you know, I believe in Kevin Cash, and Kevin Cash I trust.
How can you not?
Yeah.
Do you like the way Siri plays? Because when at first I thought, I was like, this is too flashy, and then I going in the clubhouse and kind of understanding, you know, just who he is. I love him now.
He scared the garbage out of me at first, the way he's kind of lackadaisical in the outfield on a fly ball, but then he makes it look, you know, dramatic at the end. But when you realize that he's the same guy off the field that he is on the field, it's not just bluster.
Yep.
And other guys kind of gravitate toward that. I like him now.
Well, for as much as Rays fans loved Kevin Kiermaier, I think they would be willing to make that trade again. I mean, because I think Siri's upside in the outfield is still there, but then he can bring you some explosiveness at the bat, maybe a little bit more consistency that KK would, you know, go into droughts, and on top of that, injury was always a factor.
Yeah, I was never a Kiermaier guy personally. The guy who he kind of reminds me of, Jose Siri, is BJ Upton, right? Because at times they both can do things a little easier than maybe they should be done, and they make it look almost careless. And from a fan standpoint, sometimes that can be very frustrating. But any of us who were down there when BJ was here and got to talk to BJ Upton, they know how much he loved the game of baseball. And I think you'd say the same thing about Jose Siri.
Kiermaier blocked us on Twitter.
Whoa!
Oh, yeah.
I didn't leave with
we
that.
got Kiermaier blocked.
Do you know exactly what that was from?
He does. Yeah, I don't know. I still don't know. We got KK. I don't know what happened.
Oh, I'm jealous.
It kind of felt good, yeah.
You know, we've got a lot of crazy fans.
Yes.
One of them was a big Rays fan Gio, you probably know from
Oh,
Twitter.
yeah.
Don't give him a shot.
I know, he's going to be very excited that we said his name. I'm sorry. But he was in line one time to get a Kevin Kiermaier autograph, and he's so annoying on social media that Kevin noticed him, pointed him out in line, and was like, no, I'm not signing that guy's autograph. Like, get him out of here. Gio, and his real name's Leonard, by the way, lost his mind and went on, like, what was it, Periscope at the time, was live streaming. They're not letting me get an autograph. So a while later, it was cold out one day, and Kevin Kiermaier tweeted about how cold the water was in the bay. And I said, hey, would you, on Twitter, just tweeted at him and said, would you rather have to sign an autograph for Rays fan Gio, or would you rather have to swim in the bay today?
That was it.
And he blocked.
Come on.
Just the mention of Gio.
Yeah, me and the show account.
They must have had some type of history that we just are not privy to.
They had
He's
a
really
pass.
annoying.
We tried to see how many of our listeners could get blocked by Kevin Kiermaier. It was a lot.
It's probably a lot colder up in the water in Toronto, too, I would imagine.
All right, we are just getting started with Pat and Aaron. On the other side, we're going to dive into football season, which is just a matter of days away now. Training camp ready to get things kicking up. So we'll discuss some Bucs on the other side. Stay with us when the No Off Days podcast continues. We are back on the NODPOD, and our guests this week, Pat and Aaron from WDAE. Catch them weekdays, 6 to 9 a.m., bright and early, talking sports. Guys, football season's right around the corner. We've long waited for it. Are you buying the hype, though, as we get into the season on the NFC South as the Atlanta Falcons division to win? I feel like I'm reading a lot of stuff about the Falcons are the team to beat the NFC South. Are you buying their hype?
Why? Kirk Cousins is coming off of an injury, a major injury. All right, Baker Mayfield is coming off one of his most successful seasons ever, if not his most successful season. The Buccaneers just won another division title. I mean, I like what they did in Atlanta. You brought in a quarterback, but
A couple of them.
I guess I don't.
Do you?
Yeah, I guess I don't like what they did.
Well, I mean, I feel like it fits kind of perfect into what we at least perceive the DNA of this Bucs team to be. You know, like I think the worst thing would be to be considered like long odds front runners. You know? Like guys that everybody's expecting the world out of because now you've won a few division titles in a row, and here we go, wind it up again. But I don't know if that suits this team. I think they like to be the team that comes from behind.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll come from behind this year, but they'll have a better opportunity, I guess. I think Atlanta will be better, but at the end of the day, a year ago was David Carr immediately made the New Orleans Saints the favorite in the division, and I didn't
Derek, you always do that.
I do always do that.
You
Derek,
always do that.
Listen, I'm old.
David
Okay?
is the better looking of the two brothers.
It's part of being old.
Correct you every time you do that on
I'm
the show.
sorry. Derek Carr immediately made the Saints the favorites in the division, and I feel very much the same way this year. As a matter of fact, I went right on the app and put $50 $50 on the Bucs to win the division as soon as they made Atlanta the favorite in Vegas.
Right.
Because I'm like, listen, I just don't buy it. I don't buy Atlanta. And to me, the Bucs are ascending, and they should be better. And I think they should be the favorites in the division. And for me, they are.
Yeah, I agree.
How do you think our old pal Dave Canales will do at Carolina? We had him on this podcast last week. I think Scott may be a little higher on him as a head coach than I am, but when we were talking to him, it felt like, Scott, correct me if you took it a different way.
Well, if you weren't high on Dave, you sure didn't make it sound that way when he was our guest.
I said as high as
you are.
I said as high as you are. Like you're kissing everything.
You were kissing Canales last week.
Yeah.
I like a former Buccaneer coach in the division. As much as I said I didn't like the Atlanta, I don't think the hype is there. I think Raheem Morris is in a better position, former Buccaneers coach, than former offensive coordinator Dave Canales is in Carolina. I mean, he's got no offense to Dave, we liked him here, but he's got an owner that's just Looney Tunes.
Yeah.
I mean, Tepper's wild.
But expectations in Carolina are, they really can't get much lower, right? I mean, there's an expectation in the fact that they've put the stock into drafting a quarterback, and so that time is going to run out at some point, right?
Yeah, you have to expect better, right?
But they were awful last year. So he steps into a situation where they're putting all this new stuff in. I like Canales as a guy that is going to get players to play for him.
Yeah.
He's just a likable dude. I think he understands the game. I think he's a student of the game, someone that has kind of had to scrap and claw. And so I'll buy stock in a guy that does that. I mean, he doesn't have a Bill Belichick resume, obviously, but I think he's shown some traits that make you think, I wouldn't bet against him.
Right. Yeah, in the long term, maybe I wouldn't, but it's interesting he just brought up Raheem Morris because I'd almost make the same comparison, right? When Raheem got the head coaching job here at a really young age, he was a little bit unprepared for that, right? As good of a coach as he was, and I remember meeting him the day he got the job, and I asked him, like, jokingly, an event, hey, can we go do an interview in the hallway? And he goes, yeah, let's go. And we did an interview on camera in the hallway, and I remember walking away and going, I'll run through a wall for him. I'm not any good at football, but I'll run through a wall for that guy, right? I want to play for that guy. Yeah. And I thought Raheem was going to be great right out of the gates, and I still think he's going to be a very good head coach. But he had some things he needed to learn. Dave Canales will as well. You remember last year, there was a lot of conversation about, is he ready to be an offensive coordinator throughout the season? And now he's taken that next step. I think long term, I would agree with you. I would bet on him being successful. Short term,
it might be a brush.
Yeah, and he does have, as Aaron mentioned, David Tepper to deal with if it doesn't go well quickly.
I just wasn't that impressed with him as an offensive coordinator. I just felt like they kept trying the same running play every time.
Did you tell him that?
Yeah, of course. No, absolutely not.
This is all new. First time
I'm
hearing this right now.
When you took the team up there and you beat the Panthers 9-0 last year, that must have been what sealed the deal for you.
Yeah.
I just don't know. I believe he's a genuine person who I can see players buying into him. And I wish him success, but I thought it was a bit of a stretch of a hire by the Panthers. But hey, what are you going to do? Since we're in July now, the worst sports month on the calendar, we're forced to turn our attention to the Summer Olympics coming up. So it's kind of good for the Olympics that we don't have much else going on. We may pay attention to it. If there is an Olympic sport, which Olympic sport could you compete in if you had the best training, the best discipline, and all the time to prepare for it? But you got to pick one. It's one that I'm not saying you're going to go out and get on the stand and medal, but it's one that you could make some noise in.
Aren't there some weird ones now? Like weird things that I'm like, that's not a sport.
I'm surprised video games there yet. I'm expecting video games there any day now.
So.
But that's not it for me, believe it or not. I don't want to brag, guys, but growing up I'm a lot older now. I'm very old and broken. But
your Raheem story kind of
I did tell people I was the white round mound to rebound. And for a fat white kid, I was pretty good at basketball.
You could play some ball.
And, listen, I don't know that I could hang like this Cooper Flag kid.
That guy's turning some heads.
Yeah, with the guys from Team USA. But I think that if there's anything I could be any good at as an athlete, it would be basketball.
Summer camp 1999, I won the archery tournament.
That's it.
I was 9 years old. I won the archery tournament. I hit a bullseye.
Surprised you weren't afraid.
I was very afraid. I hit a bullseye. It was easier to get the bullseye than it was to pull the arrow out from the bullseye. So I'd be an archer.
Yeah, you don't need muscles to do that. You just have to pull it back, I think.
That's one. What about you, Scott?
I think, team handball seems to be the most obscure sport ever that requires no skill. It's like it takes away.
I disagree.
No skill.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No skill.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Watch me do it and then tell me that there's no skill involved because I'd be terrible.
Yeah. Well, it's like lacrosse without the thing that makes lacrosse difficult, or hockey without the things that make hockey very difficult. So you're just running around, right? It's just there seems to be no form. Yeah. I don't know.
You've offended
do you have one,
handballers
Chris?
out there.
No, I'm not athletic, and I couldn't do any of this stuff. But if I had time to train, maybe I'm a pretty good swimmer. And now, say the 100 meters, by the time the guys got down there and back, I would still be trying to get to the first end of the pool. But that's one where I don't think I could, would completely fall on my face in swimming.
Well, you can't. You're in the pool.
Thank goodness for that. The ones that scare me are the high dives. Like, there's no way. I don't like heights to begin with, but no, that could not do that.
Did you know our jib operator, Mariah, she did synchronized swimming.
Did she really?
Wow.
Well,
Yeah,
that makes sense because she's very synchronized with the jib. It kind of moves in and out and never misses a movement there.
I want to interview her and find out, like, if somebody goes out of synchronization, do you, like, get mad at them?
Oh, yeah, you have to.
You fire them
good
on the
team.
spot.
Lashings, probably, at the very least.
You
right?
moved your arm.
You hold them underwater until they ask for forgiveness.
I think I'm a good swimmer, but I move like a giant sea turtle missing a leg, so it's not good.
There's hope for. That's why they keep the ropes there in the middle. You bang into one of those ropes and you go back on course.
I do that a lot, actually.
Well, I apologize for Chris derailing our discussion about the Bucs, but we have plenty of time for that. Guys that are always in sync, that would be Pat and Aaron from WDAE. Guys, thanks for coming in and talking a little bit of baseball and some football as we get ready for the season. It'll be here before you know it. Can you imagine running around in this heat?
Oh, no.
Yeah,
Couldn't do it.
No.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. That
You've
was
heard,
awesome.
you've
Thanks
heard
for
about
having
our
us.
athleticism at this
Yeah,
point.
right.
All right, stay with us on the other side. It is time for the Open across the pond. We have our draft coming up next. It's time to dial up another major, and for that, we are going to have a draft here on this week's NODPOD. The Open, the 152nd Open at Royal Troon. It's been going on for a long time. They've been playing golf for a very long time.
Royal Troon.
So
Over
how do we
in,
welcome in
Scotland.
BK? Yes. BK?
Yeah.
All right. We ready? We ready for this?
Wait, we're not ready.
Hang on.
We need to determine a prize. Like, if we're going to do this, if we're going to we're going to play, we're going to put something up.
I didn't want to do that until I felt good about what
About
I
your
drafted.
draft? Oh, yes. Probably wise.
All right. Yeah. So what is it? What do we want to do?
Well, I think, like you said, we got to do better than a free snack out of the break room
Okay.
than we did last time. My suggestion is, since they play for the Claret Jug, it's a pretty cool trophy.
Yeah.
Probably the second coolest trophy in sports, because these guys, like Stanley Cup winners, get to carry it around with them all year and drink things out of it. So I don't really have it. Do you guys have any cool antique jugs lying around your property?
Yeah.
A spittoon or something?
Yeah, Grandma's old spittoon.
Do you, BK, have anything you could offer up as a jug? I say if we don't have a physical.
Oh, like to give something away?
Yeah,
no, I have like an old.
We don't want the
crystal
ashes of
thing.
grandma.
Yeah, it was my grandpa's, so I can't give that.
No, we don't want that. How about since the Claret Jug, since Claret is a red wine from the Bordeaux region of France.
Look at this guy.
You should know this, Scott. Why don't we get the winner gets a nice bottle of red wine?
Okay. You want to do that?
I was going for fish and chips, but
Okay.
we'll go red wine.
All right.
Maybe a dinner. How about that? Fish and chips and wine.
Wow.
Yeah,
Shepherd's pie.
let's make a dinner of it.
Okay.
Shepherd's pie. Are you cooking that?
No.
Okay.
Are we
fish and
shaking
chips,
on?
though.
Are we shaking on this?
Shake.
Okay.
Okay, so
Everybody-
red wine.
Put
and-
your paw in there, BK.
Come on.
There.
All right. There we go.
He
There
did
we
a
go.
stiffest handshake ever.
He pointed his gun at us. Take that. Okay. All right. So we off camera we have done a random selection of this snake draft, and so it will be Chris Cato who has won that, and he will go first, followed by Brian King. I will be last, and then because it's a snake, I will be first in the second round.
Yes.
All righty. Are we ready? Chris, you are on the clock.
Got to go here with the. It'd be silly not to do this, but he's the guy who got me the win at the beginning of this, or in the first major. Scotty Scheffler is, I believe, the favorite, which means he probably won't win. He actually has no wins outside of North America in any of the championships he's won.
Okay,
But this will
I
be
like
his
this.
first one. Let's go, Scotty.
Okay. BK, you are on the clock.
Give me Colin Morikawa.
Oh, good pick.
I'm fading him big time.
All right. He is a past Open champ.
He doesn't play well on these courses.
All right. I should have done some homework. Okay. We are going to go. I can't go American right out of the gates. And so I'm going to say that it's John Rahm who gets her done overseas, the Spaniard. Okay, I'm back on the clock for my second pick. I'm going to does he have a bounce back? Does he do it?
Could he?
Don't do it. Don't do it.
He's thinking about it.
Don't.
Is Tiger available? I'm going to go Rory.
Oh, that would be fun. We know he's going to fall apart on Sunday, but boy, that would be fun if he won.
Okay. Now, so, BK, you're back up on the clock.
I will take Tommy Fleetwood.
Thomas K. Fleetwood.
Fleetwood Mac. Okay. Chris, you
All
are
right,
up.
goody. I can't believe you guys left this guy for me. This is easy. He has 4 top 10s in his last 7 starts at the British Open. That would be Brooks Koepka. Give me Brooks Koepka for the win, if Scotty doesn't win.
And you're back on the clock in round number 3.
Oh, no.
By the way, we should have mentioned the format. We're going 5 draft picks. Our last round, the 5th round, will be dark horse picks. So it's, what, plus 20,000? Is that what we determined?
Anything plus 20,000 or longer odds.
This is based on DraftKings odds. Okay.
Yeah. All right, so I'm up again. Boy, this guy's still on the board, too. America's new sweetheart, Bryson DeChambeau. Give me Bryson.
Yeah. All right, good call. Good call. 2 majors in one year, huh?
Yeah, it'd be a big year. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going first-time majors. Give me Terrell Hatton.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, I guess what's a draft? What's a Scott draft without this guy? Give me Xander Schauffele.
I thought you were going to say Tiger Woods.
Oh, I've wised up.
You know, I do like Schauffele in this one. I think
and then for my last non-dark horse, how about another? I believe he was an Open champ. Yeah. And it's the name of my daughter, so we're going to pick him, Cameron Smith.
Wow, you named your daughter after golfer Cameron Smith?
I loved his mullet and his pencil mustache so
Very
much.
Nice.
He is an Open champ, and I think 2022, and he said he drank, you can fit 2 beers in the claret jug.
Oh.
He and an espresso martini.
All right, we are into the 4th round for Brian.
Give me Matt Fitzpatrick.
Oh, he's on my big board, Brian. Why'd you do that to me?
Fitzmagic. Okay, and your last pick in the for favorites, Chris?
My last one? I thought I only have 3. I have Scheffler, Koepka, and DeChambeau.
Yeah. This will be so you're picking your last favorite and then your dark horse.
I'm sorry. Yes, I don't know the rules. Oh, okay. I'm torn here. Torn like an old sweater. Has anyone taken Ludwig Auberg?
No.
Good. Give me Ludwig Auberg.
Okay. That's a good selection. And you're up with the final pick.
I think we made the dark horse too dark with this cutoff line here, but I'm just going to pick this guy on name along. Nacho Elvira. Give me Nacho Elvira plus 30,000 right now. Can anyone tell me anything about him?
I don't know.
Or her.
It's a name that you're never going to forget, though. I know that.
I'll take Nacho.
Okay. BK.
Give me Molinari. Francisco Molinari.
Isn't he a past Open champ?
Do not know.
He's a past something champ.
Yeah.
Francisco Molinari. Yeah, he won 2018 at Carnoustie.
Ooh. Man, I like my lineup.
Okay. Well, then if you're going to do that, then I think what I'm going to do is the only guy in the field, let's see.
With a name that you recognize is?
The only guy in the field, I believe, that has actually won an Open at Royal Troon is Henrik Stenson, and I'm taking Henrik Stenson as my dark horse.
Oh, how did he sneak past me?
So there we go. That concludes this year's Open draft. Again, there's a bottle of wine, some fish and chips, or perhaps shepherd's pie on the line for the winner of this one. I'm not sure how that's all going to come together, but we'll make sure it happens. And again, if nobody wins out of these 15 contestants, then it's a push. And
okay, right. We'll roll it over to the next
We all
contest.
get to paddle each other. All right, very good. All right, thanks, BK. Hey, that was a good little show. Thanks to Pat and Aaron who joined us talking some ball during the All-Star break, and much thanks to you.
Thanks to you.
To you at home, and to BK in the booth, and to Mariah, who's the professional barracuda on the
right.
Yeah, I think
synchronized
jibbing.
I think
that's the move. Yeah, this is what they call it. Until the next time we are on, there are no off days.
Very good.